than Einstein's theory of relativity. Now, we know that Gandhi discovered the notion of non-violent resistance, satyagraha, while in South Africa. It's interesting that it was in South Africa that he discovered this path, which many in the world have been studying and many have also followed. What is not always recognized is that it was in South Africa, where Gandhi was from the age of 23 to the age of 44, that Gandhi also found India. He found India in South Africa, and I'll tell you what I mean by that. In South Africa, Gandhi met Indians from North India, West India, East India, South India, Telugu speakers, Tamil speakers, Gujarati speakers, Hindi speakers, Urdu speakers. He found Hindus, Muslims, Parsis, Indian Christians. He found Indians of different castes. He found also that the Indian community in South Africa was practicing untouchability, and Gandhi was horrified by that. But because Gandhi was able to find a great many Indians from different parts of India in a relatively small number in South Africa, Gandhi was able to understand India to a fair extent and to get to know India for a fair extent in a relatively short period of time in his young age when he was in South Africa. He discovers Satyagraha in South Africa, and he discovers India in South Africa. Now, when in 1915 he arrived back in India, we all know that Gandhi embraced three very large goals. One was Swaraj or independence. The other was Hindu-Muslim partnership. And the third was the removal of this horrible practice of untouchability. Not only did Gandhi embrace these three goals, he also understood that these three goals were interconnected. If India did not have Hindu-Muslim partnership, it would be difficult to obtain independence. Also, if India did not have Hindu-Muslim partnership, was it really deserving of independence? Similarly, if India continued to regard a very large section of people as untouchables, would India obtain independence? Would India deserve independence? So Swaraj, Hindu-Muslim friendship, and the removal of untouchability, these three great goals, were intimately interconnected, and this is something that Gandhi understood, and he wanted all of India to understand. Another role that Gandhi played fairly soon after he returns to India in 1915 is that he says to the Indian people that yes, we want independence, we want Hindu-Muslim partnership, we want to remove untouchability, but we also want the right of the individual Indian. This is not well understood, but we should know that from early on, Gandhi was as passionate for the rights and the freedoms of the individual Indian as he was for national independence. To give you just a few examples, in 1942, when the Quit India resolution was adopted in Bombay, and of course it was an immense campaign that resulted thereafter, but Gandhi, who was the initiator of Quit India, when he started his speech at this famous meeting of the Congress in Bombay in August 42, his first remark was, I want to thank those who have opposed the Quit India resolution. He started by thanking those who had opposed it. He disagreed with their opposition, but he wanted to note that these people have the right to oppose, and their opposition should be acknowledged and appreciated. We also know there are many instances where Gandhi stood up for the rights of individuals. Even when they were against what seemed to be the national mood. When the 1946 naval mutiny occurred in Bombay and Vizag and Karachi and some other places, 46, there were strikes in Bombay in support of the mutiny, and some people in Mumbai, demanded that everybody that they met on the streets would support them, and not only support them, would shout Jai Hind. And some people who were reluctant were forced to shout Jai Hind. When Gandhi learnt of this in February, I think, of 46, he immediately issued a very strong statement. And he said that this coercing people to demand that they should shout a particular slogan is not the Swaraj that India was fighting for. Again, in August of 47, when independence came and Gandhi happened to be in Kolkata, some very enthusiastic and excited Indians stopped a few Englishmen who were in Calcutta at the time and forced them to shout Jai Hind. Some of them were happy to shout Jai Hind, but others were embarrassed. When Gandhi heard of this, he again said, wait a minute, we can shout Jai Hind if we want to, but we shouldn't coerce the force, Englishmen who are in Kolkata, to shout Jai Hind. I mention this to remind ourselves that Gandhi's nationalism, his passion for India, included a passion for the right of the dissenting individual Indian or the dissenting person who happened to be in India. Another aspect of Gandhi and nationalism, which is not well remembered today, I wanted to mention. We all know about Champaran. It happened soon after Gandhi returned to India. We've all heard of the Jallianwala Bagh massacre, but most of us have forgotten Gandhi's role in the Jallianwala Bagh movement. Those who know the history know that there was a tremendous protest in April of 1919 in Amritsar because Gandhi was not allowed to visit Punjab. He came from Gujarat to the borders of Punjab. This is 1919. The British authorities stopped him, did not allow him to enter Punjab, put him on a goods train and sent him back to Western India. When people in Amritsar heard of this, two great leaders of Amritsar at the time, Dr. Saifuddin Kichlu and Dr. Satyapal, they organized a tremendous movement in Amritsar against this ban on Gandhi's entry into Punjab. And this demonstration was very strong, very large. It also spread to Lahore and other parts of Punjab. Unfortunately, some of these demonstrators in Amritsar took to violence. And 5 Englishmen were killed actually on April 10 of 1919. And that is when the British governor of Punjab and the army chief there, General Dyer, took charge. Martial law was declared. And 3 days thereafter, the terrible, terrible Jallianwala Bagh massacre took place. Most of us have heard of this massacre. What many have forgotten is that some months after the massacre, I think in September or so, when Gandhi arrived in Punjab, and he traveled all across Punjab, and he made on behalf of the Indian National Congress an inquiry into what had happened in Punjab, the disturbances and the massacre of Jallianwala Bagh. It was a very important report that Gandhi helped to compile. He toured all across Punjab. But during that tour, he also said to the Punjabis, we must have a Jallianwala Bagh memorial. But the terror of the British rule was so great at that time that Punjabis, valiant Punjabis, were absolutely afraid of giving a single rupee for a Jallianwala Bagh memorial. And Gandhi said in his public meetings in Punjab at the time, well, if Punjabis are terrified and will not give money for the Jallianwala Bagh memorial, I will sell my Sabarmati ashram and raise a memorial for the martyrs of Jallianwala Bagh. This aspect of Gandhi's nationalism is not well remembered, and I thought I would mention it this evening. And this brings me to a very important question in relation to Gandhiji and his nationalism, the question of Bhagat Singh, great martyr. We all honor him and salute him. And the question is often asked, why didn't Gandhi manage to save Bhagat Singh's life? He was sentenced to be hanged. Gandhi tried to save his life. He met the Viceroy many times. He wrote to the Viceroy. The Viceroy refused, and Bhagat Singh was hanged. Now, Gandhi, who was trying to save Bhagat Singh's life, was not a member of the government of India at the time. He was not the ruler of India. He, like Bhagat Singh was, Gandhi too was a great rebel. So if a rebel like Gandhi asks the Viceroy to spare the life of Bhagat Singh, the Viceroy regards that as a request by a rebel on behalf of another rebel. And of course, as we all know, there was also this law at the time that if a police officer has been killed, then the person responsible for the killing of the police officer cannot be given anything other than a death sentence. This was the British law at the time. And the Viceroy told Gandhi that even if he wanted to, the law of the United Kingdom and the Empire prevented them from changing the death sentence on Bhagat Singh, and Gandhi's request fell on deaf ears. But it is important to note that Gandhi, although he disagreed with Bhagat Singh's method, passionately sought Bhagat Singh's freedom, but he failed. It is perfectly true that Gandhi then did not do what he might have done. Gandhi at that stage was about to go to England for the Round Table Conference. And Gandhi could have said, if Bhagat Singh's life is not spared, I will not go to England for this conference. This Gandhi did not do. Gandhi can be criticized if we want to criticize him for choosing to go to the Round Table Conference, even though the British had decided to hang Bhagat Singh, and in fact, Bhagat Singh was hanged before Gandhi went to the London conference. That criticism is a legitimate one. Whether Gandhi should have done it or not done it is a different matter, but those who feel that he should have cancelled his visit to London, that is a valid point. But that does not mean that Gandhi did not make a very determined effort to save the life of Bhagat Singh. Now, there's another aspect of Gandhi's nationalism which we understand if we look at something that happened much later, shortly before independence. Many of you will know that in April of 1947, 9 months before Gandhi was killed, 4 months before India's independence, a number of Asian leaders gathered in Delhi. And Jawaharlal Nehru was the chief organizer of this conference. Independence had not yet come. Jawaharlal Nehru was not yet the Prime Minister of India. He was in the interim government. But he had convened this conference and he had requested Gandhi to attend this conference. Now, at this conference, many people came from different parts of Asia, from the Arab world, from other parts of the world, who were all fighting for independence because India was the first of these nations was getting close to independence. And an Arabic poem in that conference was something like this. It said, "The spindle in Gandhi's hand, the spindle with which he was spinning, said this Arabic poem, became sharper than the sword. The simple white sheet wrapping Gandhi's thin body became an armor plate which imperial guns could not pierce, the poem continued. And the poem ended by saying that Gandhi's goat, as you know, Gandhi was taking goat's milk. Gandhi's goat, the poem said, became stronger than the British lion. I mention this because Gandhi's fight that Gandhi led and India's fight, non-violent fight for freedom, astonished the world. Now, Gandhi said we should not kill the British, and he also said, do not hate the British. This was a very strange instruction. You want British to go, you want British rule to end, but you do not want to hate the British? This call was almost impossible to implement. Could an Indian fight the British without hating them? Gandhi said that if hating the British became normal, Indians would not stop there. They would quickly hate fellow Indians. Killing fellow Indians would be the next step. And we all know that soon thereafter in 47, in the summer of 47, in the autumn of 47, angry individuals in different parts of India, and especially in undivided Punjab, elsewhere in the subcontinent, took that fateful next step. And killing fellow Indians did take place in that year of 1947. Now, to return to this Asian conference, and the Asian leaders were present in April, this is what Gandhi told them. All the Asian representatives have come together. Is it in order to wage a war against Europe, against America, against non-Asians? I say most emphatically, no. Then Gandhi spoke about Zoroaster. He spoke about the Buddha. He spoke about Moses, about Jesus, and about Muhammad. And Gandhi called these people Asia's wise men. And Gandhi added, I do not know of a single person in the world to match these men of Asia. Then Gandhi added, I am an inheritor of the message of love that these great unconquerable teachers left for us. I want you to go away with the thought that Asia has to conquer the West through love and truth. In this age of democracy, added Gandhi, in this age of awakening of the poorest of the poor, you can deliver this message with the greatest emphasis. Concluded Gandhi this way, you will complete the conquest of the West, not through vengeance because you've been exploited, but with real understanding. This conquest will be loved by the West itself. So Gandhi's core message is very simple, very tough, and very relevant. Hate not, said Gandhi. Fear not, he added. Conquer, he said, but conquer with love and with truth. Now I'll mention two or three other things, and then I hope we can have a conversation. There is this idea of Akhand Bharat, and there is this great debate over Pakistan, partition. Who opposed partition? Well, those who have studied their history will tell you that no one opposed partition more persistently, more passionately than Gandhi did. And today, who wants the reunification of the subcontinent? Who wants close cooperation among the people of India, Bangladesh, Pakistan? Now, many people who blame Gandhi for partition, in my opinion, quite incorrectly, because Gandhi tried to avert partition more passionately than anyone else did, but they blame Gandhi for partition. They also blame Nehru and Patel and others. But we all know, those who have studied this history, that nobody opposed partition as passionately, as persistently, as ingeniously as Gandhi did. But also let us realize that the last people who want an Akhand Bharat today, the last people who want partnership or even reunification today of the subcontinent are those who believe in an extreme form of Hindu nationalism. They don't want the millions of Muslims of Bangladesh, the millions of Muslims of Pakistan to become part of India. Already they seem quite terrified, quite hostile to the idea that 14 or 15% of the Indian population are Muslims. They don't want the Muslims of Pakistan, the Muslims of Bangladesh to become part of a reunified India. So Akhand Bharat, although it is a slogan of the Hindu nationalists, is not the goal of the Hindu nationalists. This is something that I felt I should mention. Now, I want to say a word about Gandhi, non-violence, ahimsa. Some of Gandhi's enemies have spread the line for many years that Gandhi made the Hindus of India weak. He told the Hindus of India, if you're slapped on one cheek, you should offer them the other cheek. You should allow yourselves, your family members to be killed. And this is the way to deal with oppression against the Hindus. This is what the enemies of Gandhi, the propaganda that they have spread for many years. Of course, this is not correct. And I want to quote to you two sentences that Gandhi spoke in 1947 about the kirpan, which gives an idea of Gandhi's attitude to violence and non-violence, especially when innocent people are attacked. Did Gandhi want people to remain silent and passive if innocent people were attacked? No. He wanted people to stop the oppression, to stop violence, if possible non-violently, but if necessary, by the use of force. What Gandhi resolutely and consistently opposed was revenge, was hate, was cruelty, was taking the law into your own hands. These are two statements he made in 47 on the Kirpan. And I want you to hear this very carefully. September 11, 1947 in Delhi. Gandhi says, this September 11, 47. By this time, terrible killings have taken place in Western Punjab and in Eastern Punjab and in other parts of India, including in Delhi. Hindus and Sikhs have been killed in West Punjab. Muslims have been killed in East Punjab. Many Muslims have been killed in Delhi. This is what Gandhi says on September 11, 1947. A kirpan is a weapon for the defense of innocent women and children and of old and disabled persons against tyranny in the face of overwhelming odds. It is not a weapon for offense to be used in retaliation against defenseless women and children. Again, he said on November 24, in 1947 in Delhi about the kirpan, quote, a sacred thing has to be used on sacred and lawful occasions. A kirpan is undoubtedly a symbol of strength, which adorns the possessor. Only when he exercises amazing restraint over himself and uses it against enormous odds, unquote. So Gandhi is for the use of a kirpan if it's absolutely necessary to protect life. He's against the use of weapons to kill and terrify the weak and the innocent. Now, since openly justifying hate and cruelty is hard, Gandhi's foes, Gandhi's enemies, have presented him as the inventor of the other cheek doctrine. What really makes them angry is resentment that our constitution gives equal rights to everybody, to Hindus, to Muslims, to upper caste, to lower caste, to Dalits, to Sikhs, to Christians, to the agnostics. Everyone under our constitution has equal rights. And this is not something that pleases some of the extreme Hindu nationalists. And they don't like Gandhi's picture of India. Now, when he wrote his Hind Swaraj in 1909, all the way back in 1909, this is what Gandhi said in Hind Swaraj. Quote, India cannot cease to be one nation because people belonging to different religions live in it. Those who are conscious of the spirit of nationality do not interfere with one another's religion. If the Hindus believe that India should be peopled only by Hindus, they are living in dreamland. The Hindus, the Muslims, the Parsis, the Christians, who have made India their country are fellow countrymen, and they will have to live in unity, if only for their own interest. Continued Gandhi. In no part of the world are one nationality and one religion synonymous terms, nor has it ever been so in India. Unquote. This was Gandhi's view in 1909 in Hind Swaraj. It remained his view until the very end. And here is what he said in Delhi on 29th May 1947. He refers to those who did not like his wanting Hindu-Muslim friendship. And referring to these people, Gandhi said, what pricks them most is that I keep calling upon them to lay down their lives instead of rousing them to kill. I cannot deny my whole life and be advocating the rule of the jungle instead of the law of humanity. These people, these critics of Gandhi, he said, they maintain that all Muslims are sinister, that they are wicked at heart. They also claim that all Hindus are angels. I cannot accept such a claim, said Gandhi on 29th May 1947. Well, I can continue more and more, but I feel that I would like to have a conversation, so I will not add much more, but I'll just make one point before I conclude. In my study of history of India and of the world, I find that until the end of the last century, 1970s, 1980s, 1990s, the world was progressing towards the notion of equality, democracy. It was against the idea of supremacy. But from the beginning of this century, the 21st century, equality has received some kind of a setback in the world, and the notion of supremacy has gained some support. Supremacy. There is a notion that every country has some people who are more authentic, who deserve to rule the country, who deserve rights, and there are others in a country who do not deserve rights. The blacks in America don't deserve rights. The Native Americans in America don't deserve rights. Those who come from Latin America to the United States don't deserve rights. The whites of America are the natural, authentic citizens, rulers of the United States. And similarly, that in India, the Hindus are the natural rulers of India. And the Muslims and the Christians and the Dalits and the Sikhs and others don't have equal rights. This is a view which nowadays is getting more support than it used to get some years ago. So this improvement of the notion of supremacy, the idea of supremacy as against the idea of equality, is happening all over the world. It's something that we should understand. And it is in this background that all of us have to understand Gandhi, nationalism, and the situation in our country today. So I'll stop here and hope that we can have a conversation.
Oh, thank you so much, sir. It was really very inspiring and very informative session. Now, for the role of discussion, may I like to invite Dr. Sipra Sagarika. Dr. Sipra is a assistant professor at Fakir Mohan University, Balasore. So, may I invite her to play her role? Sipraji?
Yes, thank you very much. At the outset, I would like to first express my heartiest gratitude to Professor Rajmohan Gandhi ji, who has completely given an extensive understanding about Gandhi and nationalism. I'd also like to extend my thanks to Professor Anand Kumar and Randhir ji, who had given me this opportunity to be a discussant in this very valuable lecture. So to begin with, Professor Gandhiji had given a wide understanding regarding how Mahatma Gandhi had understood India in South Africa. The vision which he had for Indian unity, Indian diversity in South Africa brought a kind of initial strengthening about the entire journey of Indian independence. So basically, the entire journey which Gandhi could march on in India after his stay at South Africa got its initial fundamental strengthening from South Africa itself. Professor Gandhi very well made us understand about the basic roots, how he had formulated in his initial years in South Africa. Coming from that, he had very beautifully explained about how there was a close relationship between the labeling of rebels in terms of Gandhi and Bhagat Singh. The contributions of Bhagat Singh, which has been in a kind of golden history imprinted in the sagas of independence, is known to all of us. But what Gandhi actually had done in terms of his trustship and in terms of his contribution to save Bhagat Singh was very well explained by Professor Gandhi. So these were few things which many of us, those who are Gandhian scholars, were not aware of. So I extend my thankfulness to Professor Gandhi for highlighting on this. Professor Gandhi then very well tried to make us understand between how Gandhi has brought a kind of roadmap to deny violence, but not to hate the agents of violence. So that balance which Gandhi ji has asked us to put between the entire notion of denial, but not hating the external agent is quite tough in terms of the past history, and also even getting more tougher in present times. But one who can really understand the core of Gandhian ideology can definitely practice that particular thing. Then Professor Gandhi had made us understand about the relevance of Kripan. Many of my colleagues are from Punjab, and I had also a short stay at Punjab earlier. And I have seen what is the relevance of Kripan in terms of association of Kripan with the Punjabi identity. So there are several works from the northwest belt of our country, those who have highlighted on the relevance of Kripan and identity. So while understanding an essential part of being identified through Kripan for this huge and important community, Punjabi community, Gandhiji had very well made a kind of guidance towards when and how to use the Kripan in terms of emphasizing on the Punjabi identity. So when the entire notion of revolt, entire notion of rebellion, and entire notion of forefronter fighters for Indian independence was going on, he had very successfully emphasized on how Kripan is to be used in terms of the Indian independence. And Professor Gandhi had also very well quoted us and helped us to understand that how Kripan is to be used as a part of the identity, and also was used in terms of the entire journey of Indian independence. And Professor Gandhi had also made us very well understand about Gandhi's balance of religion, morality, affection, and many other components. And he has very well cited examples which are so informative to us to understand how historically Gandhiji's contribution was understood in the formulation of Indian independence. Definitely what Professor Gandhi was discussing regarding the idea of supremacy is what we are finding as a threat in today's notion of nationalism, because nationalism has got several kind of understanding in terms of different phases, what we have seen in terms of history, then what we have seen in terms of immediate post-independence, and then now what we are seeing in terms of right government. So these journey of nationalism's understanding and also Gandhian understanding through the phases are really interesting to be understood. At the outset, I would like to say that situating thinkers like Habermas and situating thinkers like Tagore from the Indian social thought, when we see that what Gandhi had given us as a roadmap is really inspiring. And Professor Gandhi has helped us today to understand these fundamental issues in a better manner. So I would like to thank Professor Gandhi with my heart regarding this excellent lecture. Thank you very much, sir. So over to Gandhiji now.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Sipra. Professor Gandhi, how do you take the question? Means we have 8-9 question in the chat box. So should I read the question or should I invite the speaker to ask the question?
Why don't you read the question?
Okay, the first question asked by Professor Meera Chakravarti, and her query is, why Tagore and Gandhi differed on the issue of nationalism? Both were spiritually inclined, both accepted Satya, both agreed on that the British regime must quit. Is there only apparent?
Well, that is a very important question, and the Tagore-Gandhi debate of 1920-21 is a fascinating debate and should be read by all scholars. I think it's a very good thing that there was a difference of opinion between these two. And not only did Tagore and Gandhi disagree, there was a discussion, and this discussion took place in thousands of Indian homes who followed the debate between Tagore and Gandhi, which took place in the print media at the time. I don't want to go into the discussion. I think that we should welcome such vigorous and respectful and courteous and sharp debate between two great thinkers who are thinking about India at the time. So instead of my explaining the differences, I welcome the differences. I welcome the fact that there was a debate, and all scholars of nationalism, as well as scholars of independence movements, would do very well to study the Gandhi-Tagore debate of 1920-21. So I thank the lady who...
Yes, Professor Meera Chakravarti is her hand also. She wants to add something. Yes.
Professor Gandhi, my question was not on the difference. My question was that since you referred it to Satyagraha and nationalism, now Tagore also speaks of Sat, which is a Sanskrit word from Sat to Satyagraha, Sat to Satya, Satyasya Agraha. So Tagore was also, when he invoked his Prabhu, his Lord, his Swami, there's so much similarity between these two. I mean, I was only referring to, if it is just a seemingly difference, then there is really no difference at all. And both of them, I mean, that is because Orwell refers to criticize the nationalism. It's because of the Holocaust or the Germany or the Hitler had made. So that kind of that is also nationalism, because Hitler defines that as nationalism. So Orwell critiques that. Orwell says that's terrible. So in the background of that, I was asking that if it is not, if it is just not a deep-rooted result, it's just apparent. It's very seemingly different. That's what I just. Thank you very much. It's very inspiring.
No, I appreciate your point. I think when you are suggesting that the differences between Tagore and Gandhi were certainly not fundamental, they were Tagore was highlighting possible risks, and Gandhi was saying that he was aware of those risks, and that still sometimes risks have to be taken. So I think that is why I recommend reading both what Tagore said, what Gandhi said, because they both help us to understand and enrich our understanding of the freedom movement. And I absolutely agree with you. Their differences were not fundamental. These were complementary ways of understanding how a diverse people in an oppressed nation should fight for their rights. And it is absolutely true that Gandhi's nationalism was completely the opposite of Hitlerian nationalism, oppressive nationalism, where nationalism is used to justify oppression. Gandhi's nationalism, quote unquote, was to encourage equality, to encourage mutual respect, mutual friendship, to promote diversity. There's a fundamental affinity between Tagore and Gandhi, and a fundamental complete contrast between Gandhi and other forms of oppressive nationalism. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yes, so one question is directly asked in the chat box. Why Constitution has failed to solve the problem of toxic nationalism?
Well, you know, if some written documents were to suffice as the answers to humanity's problems, we would have solved all our problems a long time ago. The Constitution has some wonderful thoughts, but merely because some wise people in 47, 48, 49 prepared a very good Constitution does not mean that today the politicians, the judges, the policemen, the civil servants will act as wisely as they should. But let us hope that a study of the Constitution and a study of the remarkable way in which the people of India came together and formed this Constitution will help us to defend its values when so many people are trying to destroy those values.
Professor Swaraj from Punjab, he has written a long comment. So, Professor Swaraj, if you can ask your question directly to
Dr. Andhir, I am not well. I am actually suffering from dengue and I am lying in bed.
Oh,
so it is
sorry.
better that you please raise the question. You just read it out to sir.
Thank
you.
Okay. I'm sorry.
We wish
Professor, yes. So Professor Swaraj wanted a clarification on the issue like how if the Indian leaders after independence had not followed West mandate economic policies, what difference would Gandhi's idea on economic development, especially in regard to development of village economy, made to our country, which has now become a kind of crony capitalist? Yes, unvastly capitalist.
This is a good question, but I don't know how much we benefit by blaming that the governments of Nehru, Patel, the governments that followed, did not follow pro-people economic policies. Those are useful inquiries, and good papers could result from those inquiries. But I'm not sure that today that helps us so much in understanding today's India and the challenges of today's India. The question is a very valid one. But I want to go back to the first point I made. Understanding Gandhi in history is one thing, and I've tried to do that. How to use lessons from Gandhi's life and work to deal with today's situation is a different thing. And I hope instead of spending time on who went wrong and how we have come to this conclusion, all of us can give thought to what can we learn from Gandhi and from others on how to improve our situation today. But I appreciate the point you make, sir, very much. And I wish you good recovery from dengue.
Yes, Professor Swaraj is a deep seeker. And thank you, Professor Swaraj. One question is in the directly sent to the host. So Dr. Bela, she's asking, is there a religion versus economy debate within the Hindu nationalist movement?
Sorry, I've not understood this.
Is there a religion versus economy debate within the Hindu nationalist movement or right-wing nationalist movement?
Yes, there are many contradictions in the Hindu nationalist movement, and there are some who differ with the economic policies of the present government within the Hindu nationalist movement. So those differences certainly exist on economic issues and maybe on some other issues. But I would say much of the Hindu nationalist movement is united on one thing, that the minorities should not be given equal rights. So this is a sad situation. And we hope that we will get beyond it. Because we also know that today you can say that minorities should not get equal rights, but tomorrow you will also say that some sections of the Hindus also should not get equal rights. So if you want to stop equal rights from going to everybody, then the circle that will enjoy the rights will become smaller and smaller and smaller. But yes, there are very significant economic policy differences within the Hindu nationalist movement, which should be recognized.
One question from Professor Anand or Anant Bhai. He congratulated your insightful deliberations, and he offered some queries. First is, how Gandhi's nationalism is people's nationalism, which resonates with the spirit of people's nationalism in Scandinavian countries such as Denmark. Gandhi had a few followers from Denmark. Second question is, what are some Gandhian resistance to the supremacist mobilization?
Well, those are great questions. And I would answer it this way, that I myself, Rajmohan Gandhi, would like people's nationalism to grow and to expand, to not be exclusive, to not be narrow. Let it not be Gandhi's nationalism. We can learn from Gandhi's life. We can learn from Gandhi's ideas. We can be inspired by them. But we should be free to think of our own ideas. And the question to ask is not how to promote Gandhi's nationalism or Gandhi's way of resisting supremacy. Let us find ways of resisting supremacy, resisting inequality. Let us find the right way, the best way, inclusive way. If we can be inspired by Gandhi, as I think many can be, if they study Gandhi reasonably, they will be inspired. But the idea is not to somehow apply Gandhi's solutions to the world, we must find solutions for supremacy, for oppression in the world. If they are Gandhi's solution, terrific. If they are somebody else's solutions, equally terrific. This is my view. But I thank Anand.
One question.
Yeah.
Anantabhai, would you add something?
Thank you so much, dear and respected Rajmohan Bhai. I remember our meeting, 20 years ago, and then in the subsequent meetings. And I just had a related query, if I may, that in the historical sense, the deep history that you have presented, Gandhi and nationalism, and also, how do we bring Sri Aurobindo here? Sri Aurobindo, in a way, he was a spring of nationalism and his view of nation, which was also equally inclusive. And both Gandhi, Sri Aurobindo, and Tagore, their nation always had what in contemporary term we call a transnational or a post-national dimension. And it was really part of a larger humanity.
Of course.
And so my submission is, in some ways, Sri Aurobindo also cultivated a people's nationalism, the elitism of the Congress then. And so my query is, historically, how your engagement with Gandhi's nationalism, if possible, interact with Sri Aurobindo's cultivation of the nation and his politics.
Well, thank you, Anand Giriji, for your very important statement. I have to admit that, my scholarship is very limited. Even my understanding of Gandhi is relatively limited. My understanding of Sri Aurobindo is a good deal more limited. But I am well aware of the basic point you make, that both Sri Aurobindo and Gandhiji had this, in Gandhi's view also, and in Sri Aurobindo's view, India's resurgence, India's liberation was only a stepping stone for the liberation of humanity. So, and Tagore and many others. So absolutely, I respect that and want to encourage that.
One question directly asked to the host, I think, is Rima Tiwari, Dr. Rima Tiwari. So she is asking, is it okay to say the revitalization of cultural nationalism in the context of right-wing nationalism? Again, she is asking that, is it right to say that mainstream Congress party lost inculcating community faith among the masses, and that is why there is a vacuum, and that is why there is an emergence of cultural nationalism? How do you respond to this concern or question?
Well, there's no doubt that many people, the weaknesses of many people have contributed to the openings that narrow nationalism, oppressive nationalism, religious nationalism today enjoys. There is no doubt about it. Many people have contributed to this. We must understand those weaknesses. But if our focus is on today's situation, then the question to ask is, how do we now strengthen the network of people who want to protect democratic rights? So whoever is encouraging that is my ally in this. Whoever is discouraging that is my opponent in this. And I will oppose courteously, I will oppose non-violently, but I will oppose passionately, oppose strongly. And whoever is for strengthening inclusiveness, strengthening fundamental rights, strengthening freedom of the press, is my ally. And whoever is preventing that is not my ally. And I would like to convert those who are not my allies into allies. And I would like to encourage all my allies and to thank them, whoever they are.
Again, one question is, what are the reasons of deterioration of the value system of Indian freedom movement?
Say that again, please.
What are the reasons for deterioration of the value system of Indian freedom movement?
I think the short answer is that the values of the Indian freedom movement were hard values, difficult values. Do not hate, be unselfish, put other people first. These are not values that appeal to all of us all the time. We want to be selfish, we want to be angry, we want to hate. We want to use hatred to increase our popularity. We want to be greedy. So the value systems of the India's freedom movement were not always practiced, because they were practiced to a significant extent by a significant number of people. That's why our freedom movement attracted the respect of the world. But at some point, we obviously failed. And we can say that the failure of X was more than the failure of Y, failure of Z was less. All those are important academic exercises. But as a broad statement, we can say that very sadly, the values of the freedom movement were not kept in good shape, were not revitalized, and people became comfortable and lazy and selfish. So that would be absolutely true. But I think we should.
One question.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Please, go ahead. Yes, one question is in the chat box. What is your take on subaltern writing on history?
So
Amita,
I think subaltern writing on history has been very useful, very helpful. But sometimes it is overdone. And but it certainly was a very, very useful intervention, and obliges us not to just think of some well-known famous leaders. And the way the phrase subaltern has, and by the way, subaltern is a very imperialistic phrase, but nonetheless it is there as a phrase for the less known, the less famous, the juniors. And I think it's a very helpful intervention. But some subaltern writings go too far the other way, and some restraint in subaltern writings also would only help. But I welcome the intervention of subalternists in Indian history writing.
So I think I have.
No, Randeep,
so dear
Professor Anand wants to say something. He had put a question as that. Please.
invite Yes. The respected to please share some of your thoughts. You are a very deep scholar.
Who are you calling upon, Randeep?
Yes, Randeji, who are you requesting to speak, Randeji?
Anil ji.
Sorry?
Ji, Anil Noria ji.
Oh,
Aapko.
I had put a supplementary desire to, to ask a supplementary question when there was a discussion between Meera ji and Rajmohan ji, and on the Gandhi Tagore matter. And I just wanted to mention about Tagore's elder brother, Borodada, who interestingly supported Gandhiji in that controversy. So I was wondering if there has been any work on the conversations that might have taken place between Borodada and Rabindranath Tagore on that subject. On the perhaps in Bengali there might be some more material on this, and perhaps Meeraji could help us a little with that.
That's a great thought. That's a great idea, Anilji. I like that. But Borodada's comments were extremely interesting, and of course, Mahadev Desai has often written about it, and Gandhiji also has spoken. But to know how in Bengali writing these discussions went forward would be extremely interesting.
Thank you. It's been a very exhilarating and precise talk. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Anilji.
So one question, yes, Maroop Shah. Some question. Yes, it's a very serious question. How would it be? What would be the Gandhian solution of Kashmir problem? This is a very existential question.
Gandhi's solution to current problem.
Kashmir problem.
Oh, Kashmir problem. Very tough to know. Very tough to know. I think non-violence would be a very important part of it. I think non-violence would have to be the heart of any effort in Kashmir. But I think the dignity of the individual person is also very important. And so the suppression of speech, prevention of travel, and the various suppressions on the liberties of individual Kashmiri people, because we don't agree with their views, I think that is a very unsatisfactory state of affairs. So what we need are both Kashmiris as well as non-Kashmiris who would have a dialogue on the basis of complete non-violence and frankness. There should be a dialogue between Kashmiris and non-Kashmiris in India on the basis of we will not accept any violent solutions, but we will not accept the suppression of dissent and suppression of freedom of thinking. So that is one way in which a dialogue can move forward, which I think would accord with Gandhi's values. But I thank you for that question, because we can't ignore the question. It's a very real question.
If I might add, I think Gandhiji would have also